The Dutch had staked their claim to Manhattan shortly after Henry Hudson, seeking a northwest passage to the East Indies and the fabled Spice Islands, visited the area. In 1664, the Dutch governor of New Amsterdam, Peter Stuyvesant, was forced to surrender the colony to the English. Protests by the Dutch over this seizure and other territorial claims kept the two nations at war for nearly 3 years. English sovereignty over Run had angered the Dutch, whose monopoly of the nutmeg trade needed only the island of Run to be complete. The Dutch, with a long history of brutal colonization, massacres, and enslavement in the region, were not about to allow the English to keep a toehold in this lucrative spice trade. After a 4-year siege and much bloody fighting, the Dutch invaded Run. The English retaliated by attacking the richly laden ships of the Dutch East India Company. The Dutch wanted compensation for English piracy and the return of New Amsterdam. The English demanded payment for the Dutch outrages in the East Indies and the return of Run. With neither side about to back down, nor able to claim victory in the sea battles, the Treaty of Breda offered a face-saving opportunity for both sides. The English would keep Manhattan in return for giving up their claims to Run. The Dutch would retain Run and forego further demands for Manhattan. As the English flag was raised over New Amsterdam, renamed New York, it seemed that the Dutch had got the better part of the deal. Few could see the worth of a small New World settlement of about 1,000 people compared to the immense value of the nutmeg trade. Why was nutmeg so valued? Like other spices, such as cloves, pepper, and cinnamon, nutmeg was used extensively in Europe in the preservation of food, for flavoring, and as medicine. But it had another more important role as well. Nutmeg was thought to protect against plague, the Black Death that sporadically swept across Europe between the 14th and 18th centuries. Of course, we now know that the Black Death was a bacterial disease transmitted from infected rats through the bites of fleas. So wearing a nutmeg in a small bag around the neck to ward off the plague may seem just another medieval superstition until we consider the chemistry of nutmeg. The characteristic smell of nutmeg is due to isoeugenol. Plants develop compounds like isoeugenol as natural pesticides, as defenses against grazing predators, against insects and fungi. It's entirely possible that the isoeugenol in nutmeg acted as a natural insecticide to repel fleas. Then again, if you were wealthy enough to afford nutmeg, you probably lived in less crowded conditions with fewer rats and fewer fleas, thus limiting your exposure to the plague. Whether nutmeg was effective against the plague or not, the volatile and aromatic molecules it contained were undoubtedly responsible for its esteem and value. The exploration and exploitation that accompanied the spice trade, the Treaty of Breda, and the fact that New Yorkers are not New Amsterdammers can be attributed to the compound isoeugenol. Considering the story of isoeugenol has led to contemplating many other compounds that have changed the world, some of them well known and still vitally important to world economy or to human health, and others that have faded into obscurity. All of these chemicals have been responsible for either a key event in history or for a series of events that altered society.